Hi and welcome to this tutorial. In the previous tutorial, we saw one advantage of using application context over the Bean factory, and that was for using messaging and internationalization features. In this tutorial, we're going to look at a second advantage, a second feature that the application context object provides, which is event handling. There are three core elements when it comes to event handling. Not just Spring, but generally, any event handling consists of three core components. One is the event publisher, the entity which publishes the event. Second is the event listener, the entity which is actually listening for the event. And the third entity is the event itself. It's a class that contains information about the event which the publisher publishes and the listener listens to. So in the case of Spring event handling, there are interfaces. So Spring provides an application listener interface. So if you're writing a class that needs to listen for events, it has to implement the application listener interface. Then you also have the application event publisher interface. So if you're writing a class that publishes events, you want to use the application event publisher interface. And then the third thing is the class application event. So if you're writing your own events, custom events, then you would want to extend this application event and you can write additional functionality or additional metadata about the event. So we'll start off by writing a class that listens to all the Spring events that are published, and later we'll move on to create our own event and we'll learn how to publish that event. So the first thing we need to do is, let's say I want to write a class to listen to all the events. What I do is, first let me create a new class. I'll call this the my event listener. Finish. Now my event listener needs to implement the application listener interface. So the application listener interface is provided by Spring. It is in the Spring Framework context package. Now when I implement the application listener interface, I need to implement a method. And the method is onApplicationEvent. So this method is called by Spring when any application event is published, and this method takes in a parameter which is the application event object itself, and now Spring is going to send the application event object to this method. So what I need to do is, whatever code I write over here will get executed upon every event that is published in the Spring framework, and of course the event itself is passed on every call. So in order to test this, what I will do is I will just write a simple system.out println, and I will just print the event itself. So I'll say event dot to string. So okay, this is the event here. I'll call it event. So whatever event is being published, this method is called, right? So the event itself is passed as a parameter to this method call. So I will be taking this event object, I'll do a toString, and I will print that into the output. So we'll save this. Now, of course, as with all other beans, I will have to declare this as a Spring Bean, and that's all I need to do to register this as a valid event listener. So I can use Spring XML, but now that we have learned annotations, I will use the @component annotation to define this as a Spring Bean. And of course, since I have this inside this Kaushik Java Brains package, and this package has been registered to do component scanning, this will be registered as a component just because of this component tag. So let me save this. Now I don't need to do anything else. What this class will do as of now is to catch all the framework related events. We have not published any events of our own, so it will catch all the framework related events and it will print them to string. So let's run this now and see what happens. So here you can see there is an event call that has been printed here. You see there is this context refresh event that has been published, and our event listener class has listened to this and it has printed a toString. So here you see the startup date and the root of the context hierarchy. So basically what this message is saying is, this message is the toString of the context refreshed event. So the context has been created and refreshed, and that event is being published by the Spring framework, and our listener class has listened to that event, it has caught that event, and it has done a toString and it has printed that out. So this is a simple way in which we can listen to events. But now what if you want to publish your own event? So there are two things we need to do if you have to publish your own event. First, we need to have an event class. We need to write your own event class, or you can of course use an existing event, but in this example I'll show you how to write your own event class. And then after that, you need to have that event published in one of your other beans. So let's say in my triangle bean, or let me take a circle here, in my circle bean. Now let's say in this draw method I want to publish an event, and let me call that event as a draw event, say. So the first step is I have to create a draw event class. The second step is I need to publish that in my draw method. So let's do that now. I will first create a new class. I'll call this the draw event. Now the draw event has to extend a class called application event. So the application event is the base event class that Spring provides. So whatever custom events you write, it has to extend this application event class. So I will extend application event. Get the import done. Now when I do the extend, I will have to add a constructor. So in the constructor, we'll make sure that the super is called, so the constructor of the parent application event is called. We don't need to do anything here, but what I'll do is I'll override the toString and I'll print my own custom message so that our listener can catch it, because we are doing an event.toString in the listener. So what I'll do here is I will override the toString. I'll write my own toString in the draw method, in the draw event class, and then I will see if that string gets published and it's caught by the listener. So I will write a public string to string and return, let me say draw event occurred. Okay, so this is my event class. It's as simple as that. So it has an overridden toString, which I will I have a custom message here, and I look for this message when I'm listening. So let me close this. Okay, so now that we have an event, we will have to publish the event. So I intend to do this in the circle. As I've already told you, I have a draw method here, and I will be publishing this event in the draw method. So this is where I should publish. So in order to publish an event, I need to have an event publisher. Spring provides an interface called application event publisher, and we can use that interface in order to publish events. So I'll create a member variable, private, application event publisher, publisher. So I will import the application event publisher. So this publisher has a method to publish events. So I can do a publisher dot publish event, and this takes a parameter as the application event, and I can publish my draw event here. So what I'll do is I'll first create a new event, say draw event equals new draw event, and of course I have to give this class, which is the class in which the event has been created. As you can see, the draw event takes in the source as a parameter for the constructor. Okay, so now that I have this draw event, I can publish this draw event by passing it to the publisher.publish event, and then this event gets published. But now the question is this: we have a local variable called publisher, which we have defined here. Now, how does this value get set? We have to ask Spring to set the publisher to this so that we can use the publisher in order to publish events. Now, how do we get a handle to the publisher? So in order to get a handle to the publisher, what we do is whatever class is the source of event publishing, we implement an interface called application event publisher aware. I will import this. So what this tells Spring is, I have this class here which needs a handler on the publisher object so that I can publish events. So when it sees, when Spring container sees any beans that have implemented the application event publisher aware interface, then it provides the publisher object to such beans. And the way it does that is by, of course, I'll have to add the unimplemented methods. There is only one method here, which is the set application event publisher. And this is the method that Spring is going to use to give us the publisher. So let me call this publisher, and the code here, all I have to do is I already have a publisher member variable. So whatever publisher I get from Spring, I just need to allocate that to my local variable. So I will just say this dot publisher equals publisher. So basically the concept is simple. When we have a bean that implements the application event publisher aware interface, we can be guaranteed that Spring is going to call this method and it's going to provide a publisher handle. And what we need to do is just take that publisher object and assign it to our local variable so that we can use that publisher object to publish as many number of events as we want. And actually behind the scenes what's happening is this publisher that Spring is going to give us is actually the application context. You see, the application context is an object that implements an application event publisher. So when we say the publisher.publish event, we are actually calling a method of the application context. You could as well do application context.publish event and get this done. But what we are doing by using the application event publisher interface highlights one of the best practices. We've already talked about coding to interfaces. We need to use interfaces for all our dependencies. And Spring actually implements this philosophy throughout all the various design components, and the internal workings of Spring follow this concept as well. So as you can see here, the application event publisher functionality is implemented as an interface, and you don't have to worry about the core object that actually contains the code to run this. All we are worried about is using the publisher interface to publish an event. We don't have to know this, but this is what's happening behind the scenes. It's actually the application context that's handed over to us in the guise of a publisher, but we don't have to worry about it. We just assume that it's an object that implements the application event publisher interface, and then we can use that object to use the publish event method, and we can publish our own event. So now this is all it takes to publish our own events. Now we have a piece of code in our bean, in our Spring bean, that publishes a custom event. This is an event that we have written, and we also have an event listener that's listening for all events. So earlier we got a container event when the application context was initialized, but now we are publishing our own event in our Spring bean. Now let's have a look at how this works. If I run this, well, there you can see draw event occurred message is printed. So what's actually happening is the context is initialized. Okay, so the context message comes up over here. Then our code runs, it's drawing a circle, and then it's printed out this message. So this is the contents of the draw method. What we've also added to the draw method is an event publishing code. So we have published the draw event over here, and then what happens is our event listener is going to listen for that as well. So this method is called, and the draw event is passed over here, and then we are doing event.toString, which means that this method is called and our custom code is executed in our custom event, and that that message is output over here. So this is an overview of how we can use the event handling functionality of Spring, and we can catch events, we can listen to events which are published in the container, and we can also write our own events and publish them as and when required.